Hello and welcome to the Lucian video tutorial series. In this video we'll be going over using FileCenter in the cloud. Now before we begin we need to understand a couple of concepts. And the first one and most important one is, what is the cloud? Or maybe I should say, how do your files that you have on your machine interact with the cloud? And the answer to that is a single word: mirroring. See, the cloud is nothing more than file servers that sit on the internet. And your cloud files are simply residing on those servers. However, on your machine, you have a copy of the same files. They physically reside on your machine. And whenever anything changes in either location, that change is immediately mirrored to the other location. So again, you have a copy of the files on your machine, and there's a copy on the cloud. Next, we need to understand what the cloud folder is. Now, obviously, every file on your computer has not been placed on the cloud. Only specific files. And here's the way that's determined. Your cloud service has placed a specific folder on your machine, and everything that's in that folder will be mirrored to the cloud. So again, your cloud mirroring is restricted to a single folder on your machine. Now let's use my machine as an example. I have two cloud services connected to this machine. And each one of those services has placed a special folder on my machine. I've got Google Drive right here, and I've also got the SkyDrive service attached to this machine. You can also see over on the left-hand side that there are special folders. They're really the same ones. Here under my favorites, I have both Google Drive and my SkyDrive. And if you're using Windows 8.1 or newer, you're also going to have a special dedicated node over here for your SkyDrive. Those are really all pointing to the same place. But those are a few different ways to get to that folder. Let's open my Google Drive and see what I have going on inside of there. I'll select Google Drive over here on the left, and you'll notice that I have 4 folders in here: Notes, Personal, System, and Work. And it just so happens that those are actually 4 cabinets that I have in FileCenter. In fact, let's switch over to FileCenter really quickly and take a look at those. You'll notice that I have 4 cabinets right here, each one corresponding to one of those folders in my Google Drive. What that means is that any file that I save into any of these 4 cabinets is automatically going to be mirrored onto my Google Drive. For all intents and purposes, anything that I save into one of those cabinets or anything I do in those cabinets is happening on the cloud. In fact, to really drive this point home, let's switch over to my cloud service. Let's go over to Google Drive right now. And you'll notice that in Google Drive there are those 4 folders: Notes, Personal, System, and Work. So again, having used those folders inside of FileCenter as the basis for cabinets, I'm using the cloud service with FileCenter. Now to show how this is done, I'm going to go through 2 scenarios. I'm going to create a new empty cabinet to use on the cloud, and I'm going to move an existing cabinet onto the cloud. And for both of these scenarios, I'm going to be using my Microsoft SkyDrive, but I do want to emphasize the point that it really doesn't matter what service you're using. All of them work exactly the same. Whether you're using SkyDrive, Google Drive, SugarSync, Dropbox, all of them are going to follow exactly the same principles. Let's switch over now to FileCenter and see how this is done. Now let's suppose I want to create a cabinet to store my taxes in. I want to put old tax returns in there. I want to be able to start saving receipts for my upcoming taxes. So let's create that cabinet. But let's create it inside of my SkyDrive folder so that it's a cloud cabinet. The first thing to do is come over here and add a cabinet. We'll call this Taxes. And the important thing is that I put this inside of my SkyDrive folder. So to do that, I'm going to click Browse for the setting. There's my SkyDrive folder right there. I'm going to create this, I want to put this cabinet inside of my Documents folder. And if you remember, every cabinet is a folder itself. So I'm going to create a Taxes folder that will be this cabinet. So let's make a new folder. Call it Taxes and say OK. So you can see now that the location is inside of my SkyDrive in the Documents folder, and it's going to be called Taxes. I'll say OK. And there we go. We've created the cabinet. Let's just give it a drawer. And say, okay, that's as far as we need to go for now. Now let's take a peek behind the scenes to see what's happened. First, if I come to my SkyDrive, and look in my Documents folder, you can see that I now have a Taxes folder inside of there. And in fact, if we expand that further, you can see there's my drawer, that old Returns drawer. Let's switch over to the SkyDrive itself and see what's happened there. On the SkyDrive inside of the Documents folder, I now have something. Let's open it up and see what it is, and it's a folder called Taxes. And if I go inside of there, there's the folder for old returns. And now any files that I put in there are automatically going to show up on the cloud on my SkyDrive, and they'll be available on any device that's connected to that cloud service. Now let's go back to FileCenter and move an entire existing cabinet here onto my SkyDrive. Now this client's cabinet I have at the beginning is the one that I want to move. If you notice, it's just right here on my C drive. And I only have access to it on this machine, but I'd like to be able to access it from my tablet. I'd like to access it from my work machine that is also connected to the same cloud service. So I'm going to put this up on the cloud so I can access it everywhere. I can move this cabinet from right inside of FileCenter. All I need to do is come over here to the Cabinets button. And you'll notice my cabinet is already selected on the list. I'm going to click Move. And here I give the cabinet a new location. I just want to make sure that this location is inside of my SkyDrive folder. So I'm going to browse out and select SkyDrive and select Documents. And I don't need to create a new folder for it because, remember, a cabinet is already a folder. And it's just going to take that whole folder and put it here inside of my Documents folder. And so it'll end up right next to Taxes right there. So I'm going to click OK. And OK. And now FileCenter goes ahead and moves everything over. Now if we take a look below, you'll notice that the cabinet's location has changed to my SkyDrive. And I may need to give this a little bit of time to synchronize. In fact, if you're moving a very large cabinet, all these files are going to be uploaded onto the cloud server. And that can take hours or even days. And so you need to be a little bit patient while those files get moved up. But this isn't a huge cabinet, and I expect that the files have already been mirrored up onto the cloud. In fact, let's switch over to the cloud and see what's happened. Okay, just as I expected, I now have two folders inside of my Documents folder. Let's open that up, and there we go. I have a Clients folder in there now. Let's open that up, and these are each one of the drawers inside of my Clients cabinet. So all those files have been mirrored up onto the SkyDrive now. And what this means is I now have access to all of these work files anywhere I'm at. I've got my smartphone, I've got my tablet. Both of those are also connected to this same SkyDrive. I now have universal access to my files everywhere I go. It's a very nice thing, and FileCenter accommodates it very well for the simple reason that a cabinet is no more than a folder. And by simply putting that cabinets folder inside of my Cloud Services folder, I now have access to that cabinet everywhere that I go.